would want, but it's truly staggering how you can produce an album as big as Heaven and Hell, following this tortuous saga of this revolving door that people are going in and out of, and who's there and who isn't, and who's doing what, and it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. And I don't think Heaven and Hell's 100% great album. I think there's at least two tracks that shouldn't really have made the cut, but the strength of the rest of it is awesomely impressive. So they did get through this tortuous recording sessions somehow, and they did put Heaven and Hell out, and I remember vividly the day that I bought it. Absolutely. I can tell you the time of day I bought it and everything I did from having bought it. And you know, my first thought was, oh, this looks, I thought it looked better just picking it up. And we hadn't heard anything. The radio wouldn't have played it. We had two shows that vaguely covered rock music, and they wouldn't have done it till after the album came out. So you got this album, you thought, that's a great cover. That's a real eye-catching for the 80s kind of cover, you know, that sort of step up, not using hypnosis anymore. Go home on the bus, about 40 minutes, 50 minutes back. Then you've got to wait. Then you've got to get the needle on and get the record player going. And the thing that struck me was that colossal force of Neon Nights.
Yeah.
That kind of, you know, like, right, we're here, we're now, and this is... And I just took it as being Black Sabbath, to be honest, Terry. I mean, I thought, they say the Black Sabbath, they are Black Sabbath. Looking at it from a distance now, in honesty, I think they should have called themselves something different, such as the impact of Ronnie James Dio and the change in direction musically, because there's not a lot on it that makes me think, oh, that's the Black Sabbath that I've been listening to for years. There are times when I think that. But there's an awful lot of times when I think Ronnie James Dio did not get the credit for what he did in Rainbow, because there's some solidly rainbowy kind of things going on to me at times, which suggested to me he must have had a far bigger impact on the songwriting and the melodies in the Rainbow songs than he'd been given credit for.
One thing that I've heard before, and you mentioned in the book, was that while they were recording, that Ronnie didn't need some kind of routine to warm up or prepare for singing. He just went for it.
Yeah. He did that, I think, pretty much throughout his career. He was incredible at that. There's several examples of saying, Ronnie, do you want to do a vocal? And Mike Exeter, I think it is, talks about it and says, you know, it's common for a singer to have to warm up or try a few passes. And the other one is, as you know about comping a vocal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those listening who don't know, it's where you take 4 or 5 or even more run-throughs and you just patch them together to get the best version. Sometimes they'll even patch in a word from another version because they like the way that word was said differently. But Dio could just go through and nail it, and that could be the final take. He was that good a singer, and I think that's the other thing as well. Is, I mean, I think Dio is a better singer than Ozzy.
Yeah.
If you're going to look at it, my dad used to sing, and he'd listen to the people I was listening to growing up, and he'd explain to me the difference between somebody who had a good voice and somebody who was a singer.
Yeah.
And by that I mean, if you've got an interesting voice, like say a Rod Stewart, for example, or even an Ozzy Osbourne, Alice Cooper, that's great. But none of those would necessarily be classed as being a great singer
100%.
In terms of being able to do scales and range. I know that David Bowie took singing lessons, for example, around the time of just before Heroes, and you listen to him on Heroes, and he's kind of warbling through the scales and holding the notes and stuff in a way that he's never really done much of in his early years. So there is a skill set there, and I think Dio had got that ability to do that. So you get him singing across songs, like the melodies, like on Neon Nights. He sings across the riff, doesn't he? He has his own melody that he puts in the song for the vocals. And Ozzy could do that at times, but he's generally associated with singing the riff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like Iron Man.
Yeah.
He's singing exactly what Tony Iommi is playing. Da, 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 da,
Yeah,
da. And he's singing that. And that was the sort of thing. And I think Dio does comment on that he just didn't like about those early Sabbath songs. I think he found that a bit tricky because that's something he would
you
never ever do.
know, I was going to ask about the cover, and you mentioned that.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
one of my favorites of all the albums I've bought. That's one of my favorites.
I mean, they'd worked a lot with Hypnosis and other people, and Sabbath covers I do like on the whole. My favourite, one of my favourite, is Sabotage, the one they hated at the time. I just
Oh
love
yeah,
the
yeah,
ridiculousness of that album cover. I love it, absolutely love it. But that's a very striking image that they got from that old photograph of the ladies dressed as angels,
yeah,
and I think it was a carnival, a school carnival or something. And it's such a great cover, and Van Halen obviously liked it, didn't they?
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Now, when you get to the actual record,
Mm.
you give a fantastic breakdown on each song in the book, which is yet another reason to buy the book. So briefly, what were some of your favorite songs of the album?
The best song on the album for me is the title track,
Yes.
which is the one that has the most Black Sabbath kind of things coming through into it. The riff, um, it's a tremendous riff. It's a tremendously constructed song. Dio's amazing on it. Everybody's amazing on it. Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, Tony. It's a phenomenal song. Um, I'm never quite sure of the running order on Sabbath albums. I'm not sure. You try and think where else it could go, Heaven
Yeah.
and Hell. And I did have the idea that maybe they should have opened the album with that, but they'd gone for having a fast-paced rocker on Never Say Die, Technical Ecstasy, and Iommi, as you probably know, said, "Oh, we need one more song for the album." Amazes me when a band goes, "We need one more song." Don't they know? So anyway, so now they finished. Oh, we need another song. So they went to Paris and recorded Neon Nights, which is just a blast, an absolute 1980 blast of this is new, this is Sabbath, this is Dio on absolute one of his best ever vocals. Is Neon Nights, and he's just tremendous on it. It's just a great wham bam, thank you ma'am
Yeah.
kind of smash of a song. Other ones you got on there that are great. Well, Children of the Sea, the first song they ever kind of worked on together, is very rainbowish, I think, to me at times on that one. Lonely is the word. That curious bluesy one at the end is another classic, great song, I think. Die Young, the controversial Die Young, which Craig Gruber either did or didn't write.
Yeah.
No one's telling. Um, I think there's only two songs on there that are a bit subpar, I would say, which is Walk Away, and I forget the title of the other one right now. You'll probably know. On side two, anyway. There's a couple of on side two which are
Oh, yeah.
a bit fillerish, and both Geezer and Tony have agreed on that. So it was nice to know that I share their views. But those are the two on that side that I thought weren't quite so hard. But a very, 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 very strong album. And it really ignited things for Sabbath.
I pretty much like the entire record with the exception of Walkway, especially side one. As a matter of fact,
Oh,
we
yeah.
we covered Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, and Heaven and Hell. And you mentioned this just a minute ago, but I had this down. I love how you mentioned that Children of the Sea is very much a Rainbow Black Sabbath mashup because I heard this before I heard Rainbow. And Children of the Sea was one of the first ones we covered, and I just love that song. But I never put it together how closely associated they are.
I think so. And the other one, Lady Evil, as well.
Yeah,
Could have been on a couple of Rainbow albums for me. Um, I think so. Anyway, that's what I'm hearing. The other one, the other song I'm not so keen on is Wishing Well. I think that's a bit, okay.